of games related by similar gameplay characteristics. Video game genres are not usually defined by the setting or story of the game or its medium of play, but by the way the player interacts with the game. For example, a first-person shooter is still a first-person shooter regardless of whether it takes place in a science fiction, western, fantasy, or military setting, so long as it features a camera mimicking the perspective of the protagonist, first person, and gameplay centered around the use of ranged weaponry. Genres may encompass a wide variety of games, leading to even more specific classifications called subgenres. For example, an action game can be classified into many subgenres such as platform games and fighting games. Some games, most notably browser and mobile games, are commonly classified into multiple genres. 1-2. The following is a list of most commonly defined video game genres, with short descriptions for individual genres and major subgenres. Action. Main article, action game. Action games emphasize physical challenges that require hand-eye coordination and motor skill to overcome. They center around the player, who is in control of most of the action. Most of the earliest video games were considered action games. Today, it is still a vast genre covering all games that involve physical challenges. Action games are classified by many subgenres. Platform games and fighting games are among the best-known subgenres, while shooter games became and continue to be one of the dominant genres in video gaming since the 1990s. 3-4 action games usually involve elements of twitch gameplay. 3. Platform games. Main article, platform game. Platform games feature vertical environments with leaping and climbing between suspended platforms, hence the name platform game. Platform games, or platformers, have gameplay primarily centered around jumping and climbing to navigate the player's environment. They may have enemies or obstacles to avoid and fight, or may just be pure jumping puzzles. Generally, the playable characters in a platform game are able to jump many times their own height, and the player is offered some control over their movement in midair as well as the height and distance of their jumps. Two settings tend to be vertically exaggerated with much uneven terrain that the player can leap up to or fall off of. Donkey Kong, 1981, was one of the earliest and best-known platformers. The American gaming press classified it using the term climbing game at the time. 5. Super Mario Bros. 1985, a platformer, was one of the best-selling games of all time, with more than 40 million copies sold. 6. Shooter games. Main article, shooter game. This picture shows gameplay of a freely licensed version of Doom, a highly influential first-person shooter. In shooter games, or simply shooters, players use ranged weapons to participate in the action, which takes place at a distance. Most shooters involve violent gameplay. Lethal weaponry is used to damage opponents. However, some shooters, such as Splatoon, have non-violent objectives. Shooters, aside from subgenre classifications, can be further classified by their perspective of play. First-person shooters are played within the protagonist's perspective. They often include a heads-up display showing key information such as the current health of the protagonist. 7-8 In third-person shooters, the protagonist's body can be seen fully, the environment is rendered from a distance. 8 Some shooters incorporate both perspectives. 2. Hero shooters are either first- or third-person multiplayer shooters that emphasize pre-designed hero characters, with each possessing distinctive abilities and or weapons that are specific to them. Hero shooters strongly encourage teamwork between players on a team, guiding players to select effective combinations of hero characters and coordinate the use of hero abilities during a match. Outside of a match, players have the ability to customize the appearance of the heroes but with no other in-game effects. Hero shooters are inspired by the multiplayer online battle arena genre, and popular team-based shooters like Team Fortress 2. Examples of hero shooters include Overwatch, Paladins, Apex Legends, and Valorant. 9-10. Light gun shooters are controlled with a gun-shaped controller. Light guns function via a light sensor, hence the name light gun. The technology has been used as early as the 1920s for shooter games, although electronic video gaming did not exist at that time. This picture shows gameplay of a shoot 'em up. Shoot 'em ups pit players, who are usually piloting some form of flying vehicle, or flying by some other means, against large waves of opponents. The player is continuously moving and must attack and avoid opponents' attacks as well as obstacles. 11. Since the 1990s, shooters, most notably first-person shooters, have become widely successful in video gaming, accounting for a large percentage of video game sales. 12. Wolfenstein 3D, created by ID Software and released in 1992, was credited for pioneering gameplay and graphics elements incorporated by many other shooters. 13. Also developed by ID and published 1 year after Wolfenstein 3D's release, Doom is broadly considered to be one of the most influential games in video gaming history. 13. Other successful shooter series include Half-Life, a widely acclaimed and commercially successful series noted for its influence on contemporary shooters, and the Call of Duty franchise, with more than 250 million sales across all its titles. 14. Fighting games. Main article, Fighting game. Fighting games center around close-ranged combat, typically one-on-one fights or against a small number of equally powerful opponents, often involving violent and exaggerated unarmed attacks. Most fighting games feature a large number of playable characters and a competitive multiplayer mode. While most fighting games emphasize hand-to-hand combat, some fighting games such as Soul Calibur and Samurai Shodown center around combat with melee weapons. Many fighting games incorporate heavily emphasized attacks based on various martial arts systems. Fighting games were one of the dominant genres in video gaming until the late 1990s, where the genre saw a slight decline. This decline was short-lived, however, for titles such as Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and Super Smash Bros. Dominate the fighter demographic of the modern era. 15 different subgenre games are starting to become more popular though. Super Smash Bros., and its deviation from the traditional fighting game rule set, is one of these games that has gained a large following because of its fun over-form party game development mentality. Beat 'em up games. Main article, Beat 'em up. Beat 'em ups, or brawlers, are a related, but distinct genre to fighting games. While they both involve close-range combat, Beat 'em ups put players against large waves of opponents as opposed to a few. 211 Beat 'em ups often incorporate mechanics from other action genres, and multiplayer in beat 'em up games tends to be cooperative rather than competitive. Beat 'em ups saw a sudden decline in popularity in the early 1990s with the release of fighting games, but 3D beat 'em ups have kept the genre alive. 16 Hack and slash is a subgenre often used to refer to weapons-based beat 'em ups. Stealth